Hello everyone. Today I will be covering if Arthur was in Red Dead Redemption 1. The first piece of the puzzle is how Arthur would survive in the first place. Now, one scenario would be he lived out his days as a sickly man on bed rest, or he never gets TB in the first place. Personally, I think Arthur has to get tuberculosis to get his character arc. So the next piece is how he can get out of the fight with Micah and just not die from TB so fast. I think he should have went with John rather than holding them off. Although we wouldn't get the "it would mean a lot to me" scene, but he would avoid Dutch and Micah altogether. He would meet Abigail, Jack, Tilly, and Sadie, and then part ways. I think when Charles and John talk about Arthur in the Red Dead 2 epilogue, they still talk about him being a good guy and him helping John get out, which in my theory, he still did. Now, I'm taking some inspiration on how he could have survived from Red Dead tier lists. I'd recommend watching his video right after this one, but as a quick recap, his first theory was that he would move to Mexico and become a Landon Ricketts type. His second theory was that Arthur reunites with Uncle John, Jack, and Abigail at Beecher's Hope. The third theory is that Arthur would move to Arizona and work with a native tribe. The fourth theory is he spends the rest of his life with Mary. The fifth theory is Arthur becomes a hermit, similar to Hamish Sinclair, and wanders the Southwest. And the sixth theory is Arthur becomes an outlaw. Now, out of those theories, I think the Beecher's Hope, native tribe, and settling down with Mary theories are very unlikely. The Beecher's Hope one, because he does not want to put John and his family in danger. The Mary one, because the way they left things when she gave him her ring back and said, "I need to move on from you." And the native tribe one, because I think he'd want to help, but he'd be too weak. And all three would be unlikely because of one reason that they all have in common. Arthur is super contagious. He wouldn't want to infect John, his family, Mary, or any natives. Even the Mexico one could be a stretch, tuberculosis-wise. The outlaw theory is probably my least favorite theory because if you played the canon way, Arthur spent the whole chapter trying to be a good person and redeeming himself. Even if you play low honor, it still sort of seems like he redeemed himself a bit, so it just wouldn't make sense. So if Arthur were to survive, I think he'd become a hermit similar to Hamish. I think he'd settle down, use his street smart abilities he's gathered throughout being an outlaw. He can hunt, fish, and that's all you need. I think a cool thing would be after Hamish dies, Arthur takes Buell, even though I think in the canon version, John should take Buell, but none of this is canon, there's a theory video, and settles at Hamish's cabin. I think Arthur has to settle in a dry place like the doctor said, and I'd say Amberino is a relatively dry place. But if not Hamish's cabin, he should try and settle as far west as possible, just not Mexico, it's too many people. If he does that, I think he has a chance to make it to Red Dead 2 Epilogue and Red Dead Redemption 1, if he manages his sickness, doesn't overexert himself, and always has tonics on him. Now, to why you clicked on the video. If Arthur was in the first game, this is how I think it would play out. I think John would track down Arthur after killing Bill and Javier, but before finding Dutch. I think Arthur would find a cabin somewhere near Gaptooth Ridge. I think John would be happy to see Arthur at first, but Arthur would know about Bill and Javier from the newspaper or something, and be visibly uncomfortable, but happy to see John nonetheless. This interaction wouldn't be like John with Bill and Javier, because they weren't very close, whereas John and Arthur were basically brothers. I think John would explain that the Pinkertons have his family, and Arthur would be sympathetic. And he would know he doesn't have long left because he's somehow almost 50, so I think Arthur would let John take him, but John wouldn't have the heart to do it and let him go and just say he killed him. I think Arthur would go back on the run and try to flee to southwest Rio Bravo, bordering Mexico. I think the Pinkertons wouldn't believe John because they knew John and Arthur were so close, and they never saw a body. So I think they'd send some lesser Pinkertons to track Arthur just in case, while John finds Dutch. I think the stress of being on the run and not having a stable sleep schedule and a bunch of other reasons, I think Arthur would have his belated death somewhere near northeast Chalo Springs and Redemption Mountains. I'd like to think at the end of the main story, Jack buries John and Uncle, and then ends up finding Arthur and buries him too. Then ultimately burying his mother just to make his story a little bit more sad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have anything to add to my theory or have your own storyline of how Arthur could have been in Red Dead Redemption 1, please leave it in the comments. Also, join my Discord server. You can drop video ideas you want to see on my channel in the text channel video ideas. Also, add facts about missions for my breakdown videos. Plus, you'll get weekly and sometimes daily updates on video production, and what topic it'll be early. You can join the link in my bio. See you next time.